Should it be more difficult for real estate agents to get their real estate license? That's the question that we are answering today. Is the bar so low to be a real estate agent that we have to raise it? Well, let's explore, because there was a survey done by Chicago agents and brokers up in Chicago that asked agents that are presently in the industry the exact same question. So let's explore and see what they had to say. So survey comes to us as a huge thanks to Chicago Agent Magazine. So survey results: should it be more difficult to become licensed? This was asked to the Chicago agents and brokers up there. I don't know exactly how many folks participated in this particular survey, but this is what they found. Should it be more difficult to get a real estate license? 60% of real estate agents said yes, that it should be more difficult to become a real estate agent. So to get your real estate license, but more specifically, let's dig into what should change, right? So it's one thing to say yes, now that you are in the industry and wanting to close the door behind you. I'm kidding. No, but it's one thing to say that with, now that you're in it, it's one thing to say that because you already have your real estate license, but it's another if you haven't gotten your real estate license and are considering it, right? So if you're thinking about getting your real estate license or about to get your real estate license, well, your answer might be different, because this is going to impact you directly. At this point, you're playing with house money because you already have your real estate license. So let's address and see what they said about this specifically. So I want to share with you a little bit about the breakdown here, but I'll also share my thoughts at the end on the pros and cons of this actually being a thing, if there is a raising of standards. So what should change to make it more difficult to become a licensee? So I like the fact that they asked this question a little bit more specific rather than just, hey, yes or no. Now, there should be more intensive training required. So keep in mind, again, this is to get your real estate license. I agree with this. Now, agents were able to check multiple boxes. So there's going to be essentially the sentiment. You're getting a little bit more of the sentiment of the agents that participated. There should be more intensive training required. Yes, I absolutely do agree with this. When you become a real estate agent, or as you're studying to get the exam, when you get into your first transaction, or as you're trying to get it into your first transaction, there's a lot of training that has yet to be done. Now, I understand that this is a responsibility of the brokers right now as it sits, but I think that there should be a little bit more pressure, a little bit more onus on the real estate training companies. So the companies that show you how to get your real estate license or train you to get your real estate license. So I think there should be a little bit more intensive training. Now, there should be an apprenticeship period. This one I don't necessarily agree with. There's several reasons for it. Number one, it's going to take a little bit longer. I'm not saying that it shouldn't or shouldn't, that it should or should not, but I'm thinking that the apprenticeship is going to take longer for real estate agents to fulfill. There's a lot of agents that are doing this part-time in terms of studying for the test already part-time. So it's just going to elongate that period. There's agents that are taking, or people that are becoming real estate agents that are taking 2, 3, 5, 6, 8 months. That's just going to take a little bit longer. So as they have all of this time to prepare and get going, well, you're going to lose a lot. Now, hopefully this apprenticeship is more hands-on, to where the information that they're learning actually gets applied in real time, but we're not necessarily sure. But also keep in mind, if you add something additional to the curriculum right now, or an additional requirement, well, whoever is the apprenticeship, they have to get compensated. So the prices that you're seeing either online or in-person real estate schools, they have to go up. Someone has to train, someone has to do that additional apprenticeship. So there's that additional time commitment from the person that's getting licensed, which again, that good or bad, that's what what's going to need to be. But if you look at it from getting and somebody that will do the apprenticeship, well, real estate schools, since they're going to be taking on that onus now, they're looking at an additional cost. Now, right now, real estate agents or people that are getting their real estate license, they can do an apprenticeship outside of this, in terms of going and speaking to brokers ahead of time, going and speaking with agents ahead of time that they know that they're personal friends with, and do ride-alongs and really get some belly to belly interaction on what it's like to be a real estate agent. So there's nothing stopping agents from doing this right now, or future agents from doing this right now. There should be more levels of broker licensing based on training and experience. I don't agree with this either. If we're looking at it from the consumer standpoint, the consumer really doesn't care. It doesn't matter if you have the NAR designation, so the realtor with that registered R. It doesn't matter if you have that designation or not. The public doesn't know, doesn't really care the difference between realtor and real estate agent. The additional credentialing, whether you're luxury, whether you're any other certification that you could think of, those are nice to have. Those are cool to have in email signatures, but very rarely does it translate into something meaningful to the public. So you really have to present that additional credentialing, that experience, that additional training. You need to really present it extremely well for the public to care, in my opinion. And 17% said the fee should be higher. I don't know who would say that. No, so me personally, I think that the fees, I don't find being a real estate agent or getting your real estate license all that expensive. Now, I say that because when it comes to income potential, what other industry can you pay a couple $100s to get into the industry and just have such unlimited upside? So when you're talking about selling a home, you're talking one single yes on a home, you're talking about $8,000 in commission, $15,000 in commission, $30,000 in commission. It's such high upside for an essential necessity, which is living in a home. So, or may not necessarily living in a home. So shelter is what I'm getting at. So I'm recording this early, so sorry for all the jumble mumbo. I think fees, I'm not saying they should be higher, but I personally wouldn't mind paying higher fees to get the real estate ticket to do unlimited upside. I personally wouldn't. There should be no changes. The difficulty is fine as it is. I don't agree with that, and the majority of people didn't agree with that as well. And then the others, those were just fill in the blanks. Now over here is continuing education effective. We're not going to look into that. I'm going to leave it on the screen so you see what the questions were asked. I want to navigate here because this is a hot topic of always. Should associations, including NAR, be doing more to train licensees? 60% said yes, some training should be included in our fees. 56% said yes and gave that response. Yes, because the training and designations they offer are priced too high. So if you're seeing, this majority, the majority of the responses, what's that, 71% are essentially saying, yes, we want something to substantiate the fees. We want something to substantiate what we're paying for. So essentially, here's the lack of value. So we as real estate agents, myself included, we don't see the value that NAR is bringing us. We understand that there is some value, or at least I understand that there is some value, but when it comes to, are they proportionate to what we're paying into the association, and especially now since the Burnett lawsuit and verdict came in 2023, NAR didn't really appear to have a great rebuttal in defense to where the jury basically, in a matter of a lunch, the time that it takes you to get lunch, they came back with the verdict, and it just didn't bode well for us. And then let's see, 21% said no, the association shouldn't be involved in training. So even there, we don't even give it up to the association to even try. And then no, the associations are doing a good job with training and pricing they offer. So 11%, try having an 11% favorability in anything that you do. In anything that you do. Hey, are you a great parent? 11%, of my kids, 11% of them say yes. Right? So try having that. But let's talk a bit broader. Let's talk about I guess more of the pros. I think that if there is additional, the bar was raised, if there is some additional requirements to become real estate agent, I think it would provide better results for the consumer at the end of the day, because we as real estate agents, especially if we start generating business pretty quickly, we're putting a lot of our clients in financial peril. We have to understand that this is the largest financial asset that most of our clients are going to be ever working with. And we as real estate professionals, we really have to we have to own that part and have to be purposeful and diligent, right? So some of us get into the industry and have some great success right off the bat, which is awesome, fantastic. However, there's some counsel that we're providing that just is not good. We're providing some advice that is not that good. And I think that you and I would agree, especially if you're seasoned already, that, at the beginning, the first transactions, by the grace of God, they closed. And in some cases, it wasn't always to the best benefit of your client. If we really look inside and analyze that, I think we would agree on that. So it's a huge responsibility that we as real estate agents shouldn't be taking lightly. So better results for consumers, and it's going to filter out the hobbyists. So there's real estate agents that get into the industry as a hobby. Let's face it, it's not a business. So you have a lot of transactions that are being done by individuals that are hobbyists. So it kind of goes back to that previous point of putting clients in financial peril. If your clients or people are working with agents that on average are doing 1 to 2 transactions a year, not to disparage those agents, that the ones that are actually trying, but the hobbyist agents are doing that more as a hobby than an actual career path. So there's a lot of things, a lot of disclosures, a lot of amendments, a lot of potential issues that are going to arise as a result of that. So filtering out the hobbyist is not a big, let me rephrase that. Filtering out the hobbyist is a huge deal. And it's something that I think that should be happening. We have agents, whenever I speak to agents as they're looking to onboard with our group, some agents actually are getting their real estate license or about to get licensed just so they sell their home, right? So if the barrier to entry is that low to where they're comfortable paying a couple $100 just so they can save on the commissions, there might be an issue there. So of course the failure rate would be reduced at that case, because there's going to be less individuals coming into the industry. The folks that maybe didn't really think this profession through are just not going to pass, or just not going to make it all the way to the finish line. So the fewer people that go through that higher bar, that are able to make it above that higher bar, there's going to be a reduced rate. So you're filtering out people that really had no business being real estate agents. They just didn't think it all the way through. And also, we as real estate professionals, we would have a better public image. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, I don't care what people think. Yes, you do, or else you wouldn't comb your hair the way that you do. You wouldn't put on cologne. You wouldn't put on makeup. You wouldn't whatever. So you do care to a certain extent. Now, when it comes to the public image, it impacts you. It impacts you whether you care or not. It impacts you, because just go to Google right now. Just go real estate agents are, and wait for the autofill to come back. Greedy, slimy, overpaid. Just go to Google right now and type that in. Real estate agents are, and it's going to prove my point. So a better public image wouldn't be a bad deal. So it would really help. Again, it all kind of flows in together, where you're having better transactions. You have agents that are better able to provide value and really help the consumer at the end of the day. Now, some of the cons, financially, it would be unattainable for some folks that just don't have the money to get into the industry. Now, I understand everybody has a different financial situation. So some might find the couple $100 to go through real estate school, get licensed, pay some fees and all that fun stuff, might find it very, very easy to do, either because they have a full-time job and are able to do that, or they have a spouse that's helping them with the expense. So while there's a full-time earner, they're over here building the business off the ground. Everyone's in a different financial situation. So I am cognizant of that. So when it comes to the detriment, if you're looking for additional training, that additional training is not going to come for free. So it can become financially unattainable, especially if you introduce different additional classes, for sure, because again, somebody has to teach those classes. There has to be curriculum that goes around that. Especially if you do the apprenticeship model, someone has to pay for that as well, right? So the financial component, if you are struggling right now to pay for real estate school plus for some fees, it would be a little bit more challenging now. And as mentioned at the beginning, or as mentioned as one of the points that was brought up, it's going to take longer to get into the profession. And again, I understand that there's a certain timeline that we expect, but if you have some additional credentialing or additional requirements, it's going to take a little bit longer. And some real estate agents that really need to get into the industry because they either got laid off from work or really need to make this work because of X, Y, and Z, it's going to take a little bit longer from that urgency perspective. But also mind that those that are being purposefully trying to get out of their full-time job into real estate, well, they're not going to have all the time in the world to dedicate to getting licensed. So right now it's taking agents 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and it can take longer. So all of that information is not going to be retained by the real estate agent. So you adding some additional requirements, it's going to take those agents longer. So you're looking at, instead of 4 months that it would take them to do it, it's now going to take 6 months and 8 months. They're going to lose a lot of that information, and it's going to be a little bit more problematic. But I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Should there be a higher bar to get into the real estate industry? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for this video, to whoever needs to hear it. Talk soon.